There aren't many people on the planet that can do what Anthony Richardson can do. He is so rawly talented, and it's hard to not see how high his ceiling could be, but he hasn't been good. And the reality is, he really never has been. You know, it was the same case at the University of Florida. He was underwhelming, but you watched him and you thought, wow, how did he do that? The talent's there, but he has to put it all together. And the good news is, he still has a ton of time to figure it out. He's only 22 years old, and in 2 years, we might look back and think about how he did figure it all out. I'm just not betting on it. But first, thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring today's video. Football season has been a blast, but now we get to add basketball to that after a very long summer. The NBA is back, and you can get in on all the action with our partners over at DraftKings. Right now, all new customers that bet $5 get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use our code JDPROD. The crown is yours. Plus, you can stay in on the action and use your $200 in bonus bets on betting anytime touchdowns on DraftKings. DraftKings is the place to bet on touchdowns. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry, you can still get in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have a shot to win cash prizes. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use our code JDPROD, bet $5 on any wager, and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code JDPROD only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Thank you again to DraftKings, and let's get right back to the video. Anthony Richardson needs more time and gets plenty more time in the pros, but I saw him play a lot in college too. I always thought he had just such insane talent. Not many guys can throw the ball that far, and oh yeah, he can also beat you with speed and power in the run game. He truly is a unicorn, but having the pure physical traits isn't enough, especially in the NFL, and it wasn't even enough to win consistently at Florida. But again, he had the talent. Florida knew that. The Gators were well aware of Richardson because he played high school ball right down the road at Eastside High School in Gainesville. He was explosive there. Over his career, he passed for 4,600 yards and 37 touchdowns, rushed for 1,600 yards and 41 touchdowns. He was a 4-star recruit and the number 9 dual threat in the country in the 2020 class that was led by the number 1 player overall in the country, Bryce Young. Richardson obviously committed to play at Florida and really didn't get a lot of play time there. His true freshman season was the COVID year, and he decided to redshirt anyway. He only threw 2 passes that year. One was a touchdown, one was an interception. A perfect way to describe his play style. Boom or bust. Richardson was the backup in 2021 to Emory Jones, but did get to make a start on the season against Georgia. Not exactly the easiest matchup. He wasn't able to do much, but come on, it was Georgia. He did have a solid amount of play time. He went 38 of 64, had 529 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions on the year, and he rushed for 401 yards and 3 touchdowns. 2022 was when Richardson finally was the starter, and we only got one season to truly watch him on the college stage. Luckily, it did get to come against some of the best against the SEC. The Gators weren't great, went 6-6 with Richardson. He had a couple of big names on the offense with him. Trevor Etienne, who's now at Georgia, and Ricky Pearsall, the 49ers first-round rookie. Richardson only completed 53.8% of his throws for 2,500 yards, 17 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He rushed for 600 yards and 9 touchdowns. He was able to do both, passing and rushing, but he wasn't overly good. He wasn't anywhere near as productive or even won as much as the other first-round picks like Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. Yet, Richardson was drafted among the pack right after. Why? Again, because of his physical tools. What if he could put it all together? The Colts drafted Anthony Richardson 4th overall in 2023. He was the 3rd quarterback off the board, and it's really hard to blame Indy. He's a lottery ticket. Sure, he might not work out, and he does need to develop his raw skills, but if he does work out, holy cow. You have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. It's worth that kind of shot, but a season and a half in, there haven't been a ton of improvements, and some of that isn't even on Richardson. Last year, he won the starting job for week 1, and we saw some of that raw potential, and especially just how good he could be with his legs. In week 2, he was off to then a really good start against the Texans, but suffered a concussion on his second touchdown run. That knocked him out for week 3, and then he returned and played well against the Rams. He had a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown in each of his first 3 starts. I mean, he was fun to watch, but then the next week, he suffered an AC joint sprain against the Titans. He had surgery and missed the rest of the year. We were robbed to being able to see what Richardson could do as a rookie. He ended up going 2-2. He completed 59.5% of his passes for 577 yards, 3 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. He also ran for 163 yards and 4 touchdowns. And really, who knows how beneficial those extra reps as a rookie could have been. And now we'll never know. There were then some pretty outrageous expectations some people had for Anthony Richardson coming into this season. It wasn't everybody, but a lot of people can get hooked by that second-year quarterback really making his way like a Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson did on the way to winning an MVP. Then there's Joe Burrow, who was a bit more similar to Richardson because he suffered an injury and then returned and was clearly improved. But by every measure, compared this year to last year, Richardson has actually been worse this year. Through 5 games, he's completing less than half of his passes, has thrown for only 783 yards, 3 touchdowns to go with 6 interceptions. He has also rushed for 197 yards and 1 touchdown. Not exactly a big year 2 jump. His quarterback rating is 42.9, which only 4 qualified passers have been worse than. And oh man, it's not a pretty list. Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, Will Levis, and Deshaun Watson. Not great company, but Richardson has also missed a chunk of time once again. In week 4, Anthony Richardson went down with a hip injury. He took a hit in the first quarter and then did try to return, but I mean, his hip just wasn't right. So Joe Flacco stepped in, and the Colts ended up picking up a pretty close win against the Steelers, who do appear to be a pretty good team. Pittsburgh did try to come back, but the Colts held on to win 27-24. Then Richardson didn't come right back. The next week, Flacco started, and it was a close game, but the Colts lost to the then winless Jaguars. That's a pretty tough pill to swallow, but it is a little better if it comes without your starting quarterback. And Flacco ended up having to start the next week again against the Titans in week 6, a game the Colts did win 20-17. So Flacco went 1-1, not counting the Steelers game. He came in 4-1, and he is just a true vet. I mean, he's been in the league forever at this point and proves every time he hits the field that he was once that elite level quarterback for the Ravens, who by the way did have the greatest postseason of all time and won a Super Bowl. Over those 3 games, he ended up having a 65.7 completion percentage, 7 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. He was great in relief, but let's be real. It's Anthony Richardson's team, and the Colts need him to be out there playing if he's healthy. He got handed the reins back for week 7 against the Dolphins game, and oh boy, you might not see a worse quarterback performance this year head-to-head. It was disgusting. Anthony Richardson played rough. 10 of 24, only 129 yards. Luckily, he is a guy who can use his legs too, so he was able to rush for 56 yards, which was a team high, but the offense was just completely stagnant, couldn't move the football at all. But the good news, the Colts still won 16-10 because the Dolphins situation at quarterback is so bad. They already were without Tua Tagovailoa, but then Tyler Huntley ended up getting hurt, and he already couldn't move the ball downfield. Then Tim Boyle had to come in and play in relief, including Skylar Thompson. The Dolphins have had 4 different quarterbacks play this season. It's rough. And that was a perfect example of just how bad their quarterback situation was. But it's bad when the Colts were just as ineffective with Richardson. Anthony Richardson didn't even start the season off too hot. Week 1 was a close 29-27 loss to the Texans, and he put up some good numbers. I mean, he passed for 212 yards. He threw a touchdown. He even rushed for 56 yards and a touchdown, but he also threw a pick. He only completed 9 of 11 passes. The next week, he did complete half of his passes. He hit that mark in a 16-10 loss to the Packers and threw a touchdown. He also had 3 interceptions. The next week was a 21-16 win over the Bears. Richardson didn't have a touchdown, did throw 2 interceptions, but yes, they did win. Anthony Richardson just hasn't been overly good. That being said, he is the most valuable lottery ticket in football, and that's why the Colts took a shot. Sure, it might not work out, and the chances were that it wasn't, but the talent is there. He was a sought-after prospect because nobody else can do what he does. And at the end of the day, this guy's only 22 years old and won't be 23 until May. He is very young, and that means he has a lot of time to figure it out. And I really hope he does. It would be awesome. I'm just not betting on it.